Hi, this is Anthony, and welcome back to my show. My show covers a lot of very different topics. One of the most popular ones has been D.B. Cooper, the unsolved skyjacking case that took place over the Pacific Northwest in 1971. I live in Oregon, so of course it's an interesting one for people in this area, but it really is one of those intriguing cases because it's never been solved. There's so many clues, although many of them turn out to be red herrings. We may never know who the culprit was, although DNA on the clip-on tie that he left behind on the plane may eventually crack the case. I'm very interested in other unsolved cases, so I don't want to narrow myself just to the Cooper case. I've done dozens and dozens of videos on different aspects of that case, and I've also done about a dozen Q&A videos, which have proven to be very popular. I thought, since I've gotten other comments and questions from viewers about other unsolved mysteries, that I would create a new series on those, and that's what this video is. The first general Q&A video on unsolved mysteries. So let's jump right in. So here's a comment about the Kennedy assassination from a longtime viewer who often writes to me concerning aspects of the D.B. Cooper case. I'm not going to read out loud the whole comment, but I'll paste it in on subsequent slides so that you can read it, and of course if you need more time, go ahead and hit the pause button and then restart the video when you need to. And again, all of the comments that I put in my Q&A videos are ones that people have left publicly in the comment section of my publicly viewable videos. So these are not personal private comments sent to me via email or anything else like that. And the reason that I use them is because I believe that they're very useful and informative to my other viewers. As far as your thoughts on the Kennedy assassination, I agree with you. In hindsight, things look like investigators really dropped the ball on that investigation. But of course, anybody that knows anything about the D.B. Cooper case, it appears that multiple balls were dropped by various investigative agencies in that case. And that's probably true in a lot of old cases and probably some current ones. Personally, I'm satisfied that Oswald was a lone gunman with no wide-ranging conspiracy behind him. But I readily admit that while I don't believe that there was a conspiracy, there is certainly plenty of motive for various people, organizations, and countries to potentially be behind a conspiracy. And some of the explanations for conspiracies potentially make sense, while other explanations are just plain silly. For instance, one of the conspiracies that I've heard revolves around the Kennedy administration proposing the discontinuing of the issuance of what were called United States notes. Today, our government, through the Federal Reserve System, issues one type of banknotes, that is, Federal Reserve notes. But in the 1960s, there were three types of very similar notes that freely circulated in our economy. One was, of course, the Federal Reserve notes that we still use today, although the designs sometimes have changed. The second type were silver certificates, which ceased to be issued in the mid-1960s. And the third type carried the legend United States note at the top of the bill and ceased being printed in 1971. Anyway, somebody has come up with a conspiracy whereby bankers wanted to get rid of Kennedy because under his administration the government first proposed getting rid of this one category of banknotes. Again, absolutely the least credible of any theory, but it shows to what lengths people will go to explain what might otherwise have been something with a simple explanation. A disgruntled, perhaps mentally ill loner who wanted to make a name for himself. Getting back to your book, it sounds very interesting. I'm glad to hear that you're open-minded enough to not only consider various conspiracies, but also that it may have just been Oswald. I would encourage you to look into self-publishing your book on Amazon. I've not yet done it myself, but it's one of those things that I've been studying for a long time for when I finally polish off all the manuscripts that I have in my file cabinet here. There are many free resources on the internet as well as on YouTube that go step by step into everything you need from marketing to uploading to cover design. I've never used somebody on a site like Fiverr to do a cover design, but I've heard of lots of people who have. If you do a little investigating, you can find out some place where you can get an inexpensive cover made and emailed to you. Probably for $10 or $25, an artist in Romania can make a perfectly good cover for your book. Some of the current YouTube channels that I follow concerning independently published books are the Self-Publishing Formula, the Creative Pen, and 20 books to 50K. And I'm showing screenshots here for you and anybody else interested in self-publishing. Be sure to check out those channels. and there's lots more, so look for them. Okay, thank you very much for your comments. I'm sure that we will communicate more in the future about the Kennedy assassination. It is certainly a very interesting topic. And keep us informed on your progress. Maybe you could make it this year's resolution that you get your book self-published as an ebook on Amazon. So a while back, I made a video where I asked people to post whom they thought the best candidates were for various unsolved mysteries. Here, Ms. H, at least I think that's what the name is. I'll assume that I'm correct. Sorry if I'm not. As far as Cooper, I've stated that I am open-minded on the subject, but I believe that it's likely Cooper ended up in the Columbia River with the money, and some of the money ended up on the bank at Tina Bar sometime in or after 1974, when the river was dredged and some of the sand was placed at that location. Therefore, I don't believe that any of the candidates put forward, all of whom survived past Thanksgiving 1971, were Cooper. But again, I'm not closed-minded into not listening to other people's evidence. McCoy comes up quite often in discussions, and after watching Dan Greider's first video, I was convinced that McCoy quite likely was Cooper. I made a video stating as much, and some people set me straight on a number of inconsistencies and problems with that theory. I no longer believe it, and I've made numerous videos pointing out flaws in that argument, including this one. But again, I think that we should all be adults, and we can agree to disagree on conclusions concerning Cooper and any of these candidates. The next one mentioned is Ross Sullivan as being a candidate for the Zodiac killer. I find the Zodiac case extremely interesting, but I am far from being even halfway knowledgeable about it. I do agree with you that Ross Sullivan looks like an extremely likely candidate. I think because there were letters sent that had pieces of clothing, or at least one piece of clothing from one of the victims, so there's little doubt that the Zodiac had sent at least some of the letters attributed to him, that eventually the killer may be determined using DNA from those letters. So we should all stay tuned until then. In the case of Jack the Ripper, I would say that Kosminski was probably my candidate until recently, when I saw a video about Charles Allen Lechmere. While all the evidence around him is circumstantial, other than he seems to be the first one on the scene of the first murder, I think from what I've seen, there's nothing that rules him out, and for those who argue that the Ripper must have died or been incarcerated after the fifth canonical killing attributed to him, others have pointed out that it could be that the killer altered their MO and continued killing where subsequent deaths were not directly connected to the Ripper murders. I think this may be one of those cases where it does not get solved to the point where everyone agrees on the culprit. I would love to hear from you concerning whom you think was responsible for the Black Dahlia killing. Okay, my friends, I think I'll end up here and work on getting this posted before I go to work tonight. Please do check out my channel and hopefully subscribe to it. Again, I have a wide range of topics that I discuss, from heraldry to unsolved mysteries to personal finance and investing. Although a lot of what I talk about is warning people against certain penny stock investments that are going to lose them money. When you see videos that I've made that you like, please do hit the like button, and please don't be shy about leaving comments. Okay, I'll end here. Stay safe and hope to see you in the future. Thanks.